What's up, guys? It's Duke from Intimacy Liberation Army, and today we're talking about what attracts women to men. Uh, this is a general overview, just like the last couple of videos. We're gonna dive in super deep and super complicated a little later on, but today's video is about female to male attraction in traditional straight relationships. You can apply this to polarity dynamics later on. I'll probably go back over when I'm interviewing a couple of the trans and the LGBT people um, who've kind of reached out to me as they wanted to do some collaborative creative content. But right now I'm talking about straight female, straight male, and overgeneralized stuff. And as we move forward, we'll dive into some more um, complicated and nuanced content. So, what attracts women to a man? You got to understand that the traditional female role that has been kind of beat into us from, you know, childhood and traditional religion and all the mores of the society. it's um, it's nurturing, it's receiving, it's creative. And while the traditional masculine role is going to be more penetrating, more dominant, more leader oriented, and it doesn't mean that we don't all have these qualities, but like I was talking about before in role development, is even though we have strengths in some areas, like in our relationships, we have to sort of relinquish the power of certain roles to our partners and then take on the full responsibility and accountability of certain roles for ourselves. So I'm not particularly concerned with who takes on what role, who wears the pants or whatever. But the important part is that somebody has to wear the pants, somebody has to make most of the decisions, the other person has to support things. And with that polarity, you get a lot of sexual traction. If you have two people who are doing the same thing, or even in a triad, like if people aren't, they're all kind of equally sharing all of the roles, then what happens is you lose that polarity of attraction. And that might be okay with older groups and couples and whatever, but who have weathered past the reproductive stage and don't really need a whole lot of sexual drive for their generative relationships. But generally, in our most of my clients are in their 20s and 30s, and they're looking for the sexual attraction as well. So when I'm talking about attraction, I mean specifically the polarity that provides sexual attraction. A bunch of people are gonna jump out of my throat and be like, "Oh yeah, women shouldn't do this and men shouldn't do this and patriarchal whatever." Fuck you. Like, polarity is where it's at. Like, if you, I don't care what your role is, you need to have a polarized role to create sexual attraction. That's what I've learned, and through my research, that's still what I'm convinced of. And so, if you can bring me stuff that'll change my mind, I'm always open. But I'm also not gonna teach something I don't believe in. So, first one is that attracts the feminine role to a male role is confidence. Uh, this comes from like the Dadian concept of women liking to be the storm, or the feminine energy liking to be the storm, like to be the chaos, like to be the explorer, the creator. Like, if they're allowed to go out and try and fail and thrash about and create new things with their power, there's got to be something rooted. There's got to be something that they can return to in a place of defeat, or a place of needing to rest, really. And so, in a polarized relationship dynamic that creates a lot of sexual attraction, there's going to be one of the partners who's going to be confident. They're gonna be sure about the future. They're gonna be leading in a direction and certain that they can, or at least have a degree of certainty that they can adapt and achieve whatever they're looking forward to do in the future. So confidence is super important. I did a video yesterday. It's called "Increasing Your Confidence and Self Worth." You can see it on the channel. That talks about creating that personal confidence and having that ability to stare uncertainty in the face and still be sure of your purpose or still be sure of your direction is super attractive to the high traditional feminine energy. So, as far as lists of things that attract a woman to a man, that's pretty much first and foremost. The second trait is called sense of humor, and this isn't like Cosmetologist magazine, like guys need to be funny or whatever. It's more like when you take things really seriously and you're super confident that you're gonna achieve things, you also have to have an ease about it, and the sense of humor that you can address to horrible situations can help you weather the storm as it develops. Life brings up so much suffering. People die. We have financial issues. We have viruses that shut our entire businesses down, and all of these things happen. And if you can't take it with a little okay, well, that's kind of fucked up, but if you can't have a little whimsical sense of humor about it, it makes it a lot more difficult, and it throws up the anxiety levels. And like I was talking about a couple of days ago, anxiety is super useful when it's life, death, fight, flight, freeze type scenario, but it's pretty much useless when it comes to moving forward and growth and trying new things and trying to get into something that creates and manifests. When anxiety happens, at the survivor levels, it's hard to go to the higher levels of the Maslowian pyramid and get anything of note because there's too much stress going on, and sense of humor helps alleviate that. It's one thing to idealize the world a certain way and think that everybody's got a lot of good in them and be optimistic and look for opportunities. And it's another thing to be able to see the actual evil, the actual depravity, the actual betrayal of a lot of us as humans, and then be able to laugh at it. And so having this sense of humor, it doesn't necessarily mean you're laid back, but it also helps you maintain being unaffected by the actual hardcore bullshit that the world throws at you sometimes. Third one is intelligence. I think that there's obviously different modes of intelligence. Mating intelligence, social intelligence, emotional intelligence. IQ. The ability to problem solve and adapt in real time, I think, is super important. You'll see some men who blame everything external and get kind of washed about as a victim to the things that happen in everyday life, and then the other men who are able to, okay, well, here's what I have to work with, here's the resources I have to work with, okay, I'm gonna fucking execute here, and attempt to make the best out of the situation. Being able to show your intelligence in those ways is super. It meets the needs for security, and the cool thing about technically on paper intelligence is something that's relatively innate, but it's got a component of learning to it. And as I'm always pushing forth on this channel, like, if you don't know something, you can always kind of reach out and figure out what's going on and learn from people who've already taken the path that you've taken before. Almost every problem that you're going to run into on the lower levels of close to survival to developing relationships and being generative of the world, somebody's been that direction, somebody's had those goals, somebody's written a book about it, somebody's taught something about it, and you can kind of follow in their footsteps to get a more accurate map of reality and more effective strategies to deal with reality that you didn't know before. You can always be increasing your levels of intelligence as long as you apply yourself and you seek out people who have walked the path that you want to walk. So, as far as being attractive with intelligence, I think it has a lot to do with security. I think it has a lot to do with your ability to not flip out and get washed about by the bullshit of life, and your ability to problem solve in real time. One of the best ways to build your intelligence is to constantly be learning, watching videos like this and reading books that are related, and talking to people who are smarter than you in particular areas. They're going to drag you up with them, and you can start to flex your breadth of intelligence as you create and maintain a stable learning base. You should always be curious about what you could do better in the situations that you find yourself in, and seek out better ways, better strategies, better methods of dealing with life, and learning the rules and being able to play well by them so that you can get success or end out on the higher percentage of the players of the game. So intelligence is one of those. That's the fourth one. We had confidence, sense of humor, intelligence, and then the fourth one is kindness and compassion. When people are lower at in the Maslowian hierarchy, when they're really focused on their survival and not getting killed, war torn countries down in the poverty levels and stuff like that. When you're down here and you're focused on your own just sustenance and survival, it's very difficult to be compassionate to other people. Like all of your anxiety and all of your fight, flight, freeze stuff is triggered on a constant basis. And when you're out of that level, out of that base level, you start to look at relationships, you start to look at love, you start to look at interconnectedness. As you move up closer to self-actualization, you're looking at generativity. And if you can find a reason to make kindness and compassion part of your identity, then you sort of show the honest signals that you're past the problem solving stage of that survival level, and also you're connected to a community. You're able to play well with others. You're able to leverage your relationship with people to the benefit of yourself and the tribe, right? There's a lot to be said about running into somebody who's just running around at the scarcity level at the bottom of the pyramid and trying to just make it. All power to you, right? But when you run into somebody that has kind of handled that area themselves and is looking outward to help the people around them and be kind to people and listen to their stories and move forward without a lot of judgment, having compassion for the humans that they are, they've grown a little bit in their emotional maturity, and it's super, super attractive. It's actually attractive across genders and sexual orientations, but kindness and compassion is something that if you can make an identity level thing, you're going to attract other people that are similar and make a much bigger impact on the world, because two compassionate people are going to be able to find solutions that two people who are just focused on survival are not going to be able to fathom. The fifth thing, physical attractiveness. All right, so this is a really big subject. It's a lot of different people have a lot of different attractions to a lot of different things. Everything from fashion to body type to fitness to youth to status in how you show it. There's a bunch of different things that are attractive, and at the base level, on, sort of the evolutionary physical, um, like, what's the word, like primal level. You're obviously looking for health and youth, right? That's what the evolutionary psychologists are going to argue about. But as we move forward in kind of mm, a media-based society, we're taught to be attracted to certain tropes or certain memes, certain visualizations of things. If you're hanging out in um, uh, the Western U.S., you're going to see a lot of commercials that are meant to drive a certain amount of sex appeal to you that isn't necessarily natural. Like it is not an evolutionary drive to come after fake tits and Botox and poofy lips and all that whatever. But we have been kind of trained as we were growing up through advertising, through media, that these things are what create status. These things are what are going to create popularity. These things are what are going to create mass acceptance. And so it's kind of written into our attraction map that these physical specimens, whether they're modified or not, are something to be desired. And as I've gotten older, I spent a lot of time growing up super attracted to the traditional, 90s supermodel, Cindy Crawford style women. And yeah, that's great. She's healthy and awesome and beautiful and whatever. But as I've gotten older and started to see what I'm actually attracted to, there's a lot less physical. Um, the bar isn't so high for me anymore. I've met a lot of these girls that are super fit and they got all of they're always made up and they always have their things on point, and I think I have a lot of respect for that. But I also know that there are internal things that are much more attractive for me now. Like as I've sort of burned off what I learned from porn and media, it's like, oh, this is what an attractive woman is. I started to realize that a woman who is caring, a woman who is nurturing, a woman who is um, willing to communicate and negotiate are a lot more attractive than a woman who's not willing to do that. And it sort of takes the physical thing and puts it on the back burner. On the other hand, you still got to have some sort of physical attraction, whatever that is, like whether it's something that got trained into you or whether it's kind of intrinsic in um, evolutionarily, like whether it's intrinsic to your instincts. You still got to have some sort of attraction, otherwise, your sexual mating activities are not going to be supported in the way that you is, I don't know, not natural, but it's in the way that flows. And so obviously keeping yourself fit, keeping yourself well groomed, keeping yourself smelling not like an idiot, those things are going to help you in your attracting a women's attention. But also you can't ignore the other things: the confidence, the sense of humor, the kindness, and compassion, and intelligence. So, physical attraction is variable. When you go out there, you're gonna have to kind of figure out, what your type is, what type likes your type, and you can leverage it that way. Definitely try out, different types of fashion styles, see what you like, what makes you feel the most presentable, and what makes you feel the most alive and free. And typically, that's going to be something that, because it creates from your insides, like you'll be vibing that attractiveness because you feel attractive. And a lot of people downplay the idea of media and looking like a certain a way that you think you ought to. But I mean, it plays a big role in society, and there's no reason not to. Get dressed up, fucking wear nice clothes, look like you take care of yourself. There's also, a lot of danger in trying to be something that you're not and working really hard to put forth an image that isn't who you are. And so obviously be aware of that, but take care of yourself as much as you can so that you feel the most alert, you feel the most um, desirable, and you're gonna act that as well when you feel that way. The sixth one, ambition and drive. Ambition, it pointed out a purpose. Pointed, whether it's conquering the world or changing lives or building your business or being able to provide for your family or whatever it is, whatever your big core life purpose is. When you can take that mission and drive towards it insatiably, that ambition is super super sexy. Um, Guys who are, or anybody with masculine energy, who can just take that and run with it and just lead in that direction, they're gonna come off super super attractive. One of the rules I heard early on in my uh, dating coach career was that you always got to have a mission, and you always got to put that mission over your woman, over your relationships. And I wrestled with that for a long time. I think it came from originally Way at the Superior Man, David Data's super badass book. And anybody who's going to play a supporter role in a relationship generally has to respect the mission that you're doing. And people who can't respect that, they generally don't last long, or they end up holding you back from achieving that thing. And you were kind of put here, whatever you believe about why we're here on the earth, but you're kind of put here to move down a particular path and achieve a certain thing. And there are many alternate realities to that, but uh, you're going to have, there we go, a little higher. You're going to have a life purpose, a life mission, and maybe you'll complete it and then find another one. But mm, seeking out relationships isn't necessarily going to be that mission. Seeking out, um, making your wife happy is not necessarily going to be that mission. Your mission is going to be larger, more generative, generally. And if you can identify that, know yourself well enough to move in that direction at a breakneck speed, then the person who's going to be best for you, I guess, in a relationship and more polarized is going to be the person who sees that mission, really respects that you're after that, and supports you in that drive. Um, and then the seventh thing attracting a woman to a man is respect. There's a lot of kind of broken or toxic relationship memes or tropes that we live out by being super domineering and disrespectful and leaving people on red and not calling back for 3 weeks and playing with people's emotions, gaslighting, narcissistic behavior. We learned this that bad boys are always great and nice guys finish last and whatever. This is a reality of the situation. Some people are attracted to things that suck, and the level at which we resolve our trauma and or have not been traumatized, we can look at each other as human beings, have that compassion and kindness. Um, we were kind of taught in the post-traumatized generations that respect is not necessarily something that you should give right away. So respect is something that's earned, and that that you're not supposed to um, give people an upper hand over you. You keep yourself safe by not showing all your cards, and I think that's done really bad things um, for all of society, because the less vulnerable we are, the less um, the less skilled we are at dealing with who we actually are in front of people, the less we can negotiate, the less we can create relationships that have super deep support and super deep connection. If we're always running at the surface level, with kind of a knife behind our backs, like waiting for the other person to fuck up, it's really difficult to create depth of intimacy and create relationships that are super, super, they have that energetic drive inside to keep going. And so I put this in here because I think respect for other humans and respect for the unique qualities that your partner's got or your love interest has, and those are vital things for attraction. I love being approved for who I actually am. I like, when I first started into this stuff, I just wanted to be approved by anybody for anything. And so I was always looking for things to gain approval. But I actually love, as I've sort of let the smoke clear and grown up a little emotionally, I actually love being approved for who I am and the things that I like. Not because I love the validation and approval per se, but because I know that I'm safe with somebody in my tribe when they approve who I actually am. And they can kind of keep me on track to being more myself, to being more attached, or that's not the right word. It's being more focused on the things that are my strengths, the things that are my interests and desires. And when I have people around me who really understand those things and then approve that, that's like the best mix, and makes me super attracted to that person because it's they respect me for who I actually am. And so I think that offering the same thing to my partner is super vital in maintaining a real, not real, but a high energy relationship that continues to provide growth and happiness. So those are the 7 things: attracting women to men, confidence, sense of humor, kindness, compassion, intelligence, physical attractiveness, ambition and drive, and respect. If another thing on respect is like, it's not just respect for the other humans, but it's respect for yourself. I forgot to say that. If you're constantly disrespecting yourself, that's one of the least attractive traits you can have. And you're just shooting yourself in the foot when you undercut yourself and you haven't done the work to give yourself the affirmation and validation that you are on the right path, you're going in the right direction. So yeah, so all of those 7 things attract a woman to a man. We'll break some of these things down in deeper, more nuanced detail as we move forward. It's important to keep in mind that attraction is a unique and a complex experience. Like I said, there's so many different factors, not just evolutionary factors of youth and health, but also, if we got high ACEs scores, sometimes we're attracted to things that we have no business being attracted to because we sort of commingled sexual attraction with, the acceptance of a narcissist or the ability to overcome abuse in the moment. But we have to create a cycle to make that continue to happen. Or we're attracted to things that we were taught, like super attracted to the quintessential attractive woman of the time, whether she's super skinny Kate Moss 20 years ago or whether she's Kardashian-y now. Like, there's a bunch of different things that have taught us attraction. You kind of got to navigate those. And just like everything else on this channel that I'm teaching, you have to figure out what's actually you and what isn't serving you anymore, and kind of let that stuff go. And like I said, as I'm getting older and giving a lot less of a fuck what people think, my standards for attraction have changed quite a bit, especially healing some of the trauma about acceptance and people pleasing. It's changed kind of my blueprint of what I'm sexually attracted to. But in general, attraction is polarity, and that polarity is only really achieved by being able to have open, vulnerable communication and then negotiating roles that are they go hand in hand. They're dovetailed. They're polarized, like leader, supporter, or nurturer, provider, and those types of roles. Um, Building those things on purpose and then agreeing to play those roles out to the end um, and master them is what can provide long-lasting sexual and romantic attraction throughout time. That's today. Merry Christmas if you're watching this relatively live, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I do this every day, so until then, stay awesome.